You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Before you get the rest of the story, I'd love to share a quick message from today's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. So if you're going to keep listening to this, which I know you will, there's more information and a personal review of Follow Up Boss. For more information, go to followupboss.com/crazy. Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today's episode is going to go in about 14 different directions, frankly, because I was way more interested in different topics today than my guest came to the show with, but it's okay because they gave us some free downloads. So enjoy Michael and Suzy, who are coming at us from the United Kingdom. And we have an Air Force vet with us today. So make sure and give him some high fives and thanks for his service in the comments. Check this out. I'll see you on the other side. So thank you all for coming on the show. And I mean, being overseas entrepreneurs, I have to ask, where are y'all today?
We're in the UK. We're in Cambridge, England. Nice. We're excited.
How long have you been over there?
So Michael's been here like 2.5 years. I've been here for 2.
So are you ever going to leave there? Or is this a forever stop?
No, we will leave. We have 1 year left. Michael's getting his PhD at the University of Cambridge, so he'll be done in a year. Yeah, That's been cool.
So will you like carve your name on the corner of the building or something where all of those illustrious people have been over all these centuries?
That's a good idea. Maybe I have to do that. Yeah.
Right?
I won't rat you out if you do, but I totally would.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for being willing to come on the show and talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in the investor space that has to do with overseas. With that being said, besides the fact that you're over in Cambridge right now, tell our audience who you are and a little bit about your background, how you landed in the real estate space, and just some little insights into Michael and Suzy.
So my name is Suzy. So my background is... So like, I actually currently am a real estate professional, but like, how did I get here? Right. So my undergrad was in anthropology and communication studies. And for some reason, I went into the world of accounting. And after a while, right?
I mean, accountants don't do either of those things, but carry on.
No, I know. And I had just been in accounting for too long. And so I was like, okay, I'll get an MBA, right? This is what people do, how they progress into like a career change and just going up the corporate ladder. Well, I got that MBA and found out about the world of supply chain. And actually, from my point of view, supply chain and anthropology have a lot to do with each other because it's really all about communities, how you make things work. But within supply chain, I got a project management role over at a biotech company over here. And I was like, okay, this is really cool, right? I enjoy what I'm doing. I like what it is. But then once Michael and I had like found out about the world of real estate and found out like the power that it has, I came to the point where I was like, okay, well, this is a bummer now, right? I have 2 undergraduate degrees. I have an MBA, and I'm going to leave all of the corporateness and just go straight into real estate and start like our own business. And so that is where I am now. I've been out of that role since August, like the end of August of 2021. So it's been like a lot of fun navigating, like being a business owner and an entrepreneur all at the same time. But I have now found out like how I can use like my project management skills in that supply chain role, and then how I can definitely use anthropology in this role, because like real estate is all about people. That's what anthropology is about. So it like really came in hand. So I love that connection finally like made its way into my career life.
But, I got to ask, we're recording this at the end of what better be the end of the COVID era. So did you keep your biotech stocks? I mean, tell the truth.
Oh, no. I know it was unfortunate, but real estate won, and biotech will forever go up and down. So I was just like, you know what? We will see where this goes.
Get better. I was just curious if I was talking to one of the new Pfizer billionaires or not.
Right. I wish.
Right.
Oh, no, I'd say our money in real estate is more honestly earned. We don't have a good reputation, but I think it's going to finally be higher than pharmaceutical people here soon.
Gosh, I hope so. Right?
Yeah.
So, Michael, did you get dragged into this because Suzy got dragged into it?
Well, I definitely not as cool a story as Suzy had, but
Thank you.
but so I've been in the Air Force for 17 years now, and I've been doing various different jobs in the Air Force. My main career in the Air Force was acquisitions officer. So that means like basically acquiring defense systems for the Air Force. And so like I have a lot of acquisitions, like program management, project management type of skills, but I'm also a scientist. So I also spent a lot of time, my master's degree in molecular biology. Now I'm getting the reason why we're in Cambridge is because I'm getting a PhD in biochemistry. And so I am a hardcore like data scientist as well. And so like that combined with our project management skills blends really nicely into real estate investing as well. So I handle like the underwriting and all of that aspects of like analyzing the deal and stuff like that. But so that's why we're here. And now Suzy and I will be over for another year, and then we'll go back to the States where I'll continue teaching at the Air Force Academy. And then that'll be my last tour in the Air Force, and then I can retire after that, shortly after that. So
Yeah, but he's actually like the more entrepreneurial one. Like he was entrepreneurial all through college. He kind of skipped that part and like had his own business before. So he's actually the one who dragged me into it. I did not think that I was ever going to own my business. That has been like Michael's dream since a long time. And so what we did actually is that like during COVID-19 and the lockdowns, we had a mini book club with each other. And one of those books was called Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. And Michael had read it, got to the second section where it talks about real estate. And he's like, just go to this part. Like, this is all we need to focus on. So it was actually his idea to even buy the book, Multiple Streams of Income, in order for us to like grow to like the adventurous real estate investors that we are today.
It's just funny because you guys are upending so many of the paradigms around, well, everything, because military people aren't generally known for their entrepreneurism. So that's really cool. And we rarely see, I mean, this is going to sound ugly, but we just don't see people with highly advanced scientific degrees in real estate, which is wild because it's a great place to use all the skill sets that you've mentioned. So thank you for kind of raising the collective reputation of investors. So now I want you to talk to us a little bit about that book, that Multiple Streams of Revenue. And don't worry, friends, we'll link the book in the show notes for the episode so y'all can go find it and just do what Suzy did and just skip right ahead to the section Michael said, go read this. I want to know what jumped out at you that made you feel like this was a space to invest your time and your energy, knowing that with the kind of work the two of you do, that's what you had a poverty of, was time and energy more so than anything else. And so why dive into that specific space? What was the hooker?
Man, that's a good question. So I think reading through that book, there's like three main sections. The first section's all about like how you can make money in the stock market. So it talks about options, shorting, and things like that. And talks about all that. I was like, I'm really not interested in that. I've had some money in the stock market. I'm not really too focused on that. And then the whole second section was just real estate investing. And I was like, wow, this sounds, in the way he writes, it makes it sound so easy and so powerful. And maybe I misspoke there. And what I meant to say was like, the way he writes, it makes it sound so simple, which it is very simple. Real estate investing is simple. It's not very easy, right? I mean, like it takes a little bit to get started, but once you get started, it becomes very easy and it's very, very simple. And so through that, like we were like, wow, this is a really powerful wealth building tool. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, we needed to look into this a little bit more. And so like, we kind of got attracted initially to like the single family side of things. You know, we're like, oh, we'll just buy a rental property, add some value to it, refi it, pull some money out, and then we can rent it out. And then we'll just kind of build up those single family portfolio over a period of time. But then that kind of drove us into the real estate space online. And we started doing some searching, found Bigger Pockets, which is a really cool forum. And then we also found like a lot of military investor forums as well. And so us being overseas, we reached out and we're like, on this forum, we're like, hey, is anybody living overseas and investing in the States? And people are like, oh yeah, we do it all the time. I was like, okay, so we're not crazy thinking that we're 4,000 miles away from the properties that we want to actually invest in. People are actually doing it. But that also led us to a conference. And this conference is like a veterans real estate investing conference, which talked about everything from wholesaling to flipping to multifamily to single family buy and hold type of stuff. And we went there, we learned everything we could about real estate investing. And there was one gentleman in there who looked at me, and we had a little breakout room with Suzy and I and him. And he was like, Michael, you don't have to start with single family. You can go straight into multifamily investing. And I was like, you're crazy. And so I was like, I didn't believe him at the time. Right. And so I don't know if Suzy wants to take it from there, talk about more about our single family stuff, but.
So yeah, we decided that he was crazy and we're like, okay, we're just going to do single family. And so we're going to do the BRRRR method, which is buy, rehab, refinance,
rent, refinance,
repeat. So I don't remember it because we don't actually do it now. So we thought that
young people just go BRRRR with the money. So to
yeah. And so we were going to do that. And in a Midwest city, and that city had a inland hurricane happen. So the whole city was devastated. And instead of panicking, we decided to pivot. And that's where then we remembered Whitney Sewell saying to us, you can go straight into multifamily. And so within the week, we had just changed our networking strategy to go to multifamily meetups and multifamily conferences. And that's exactly what we did. And when we got into those rooms and found out that a ton of other people who were exactly like us were doing the same thing, all of the limiting beliefs just disappeared, because if they could do it, we could do it. So many people say I was in the same steps you are now. Everybody has a very, very beginning. And so if everybody has a very beginning, then somebody at one point has to get to day 100 or year 1 or year 2. It just takes one step at a time. And so once we found out all those other people had done it, we're like, this is exactly what we're going to do.
I'm sitting here writing down what you're saying because you're spitting out the best little phrases ever, Suzy. And I don't even know if you heard yourself say everybody has a beginning. I think that might be your book title when you get around to writing one. I'm just saying.
Thanks.
That's so impactful. And thinking about that, you guys have mentioned multiple times now you were in the spaces to find a mentor, whether or not it was going to work out long term. And frankly, we don't always believe our mentors because, oh my gosh, if I could look back at my early investing days, I should have done multifamily earlier, but I was so chicken too, because all I ever knew was single family. Because as a realtor, you buy and sell single family houses. If you don't do multifamily, it's hard to think that you can do multifamily. And all of this is that mindset shift of getting past those limiting beliefs that you mentioned. So what would you say it took for you to get past those limiting beliefs and do something? Because I think that's also our hardest task in any of this. You said pivot, don't panic. I wrote that down too, because that's amazing. So even if you're going to pivot, you have to do something. You have to take some action. So was that finding somebody to invest alongside? Was that just taking a leap by yourself? What was that pivot and action moment?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us to kind of break down those barriers and get rid of those limiting beliefs was just getting into rooms with people that were doing what we wanted to do, right? We were finding networking events where people were already investing in multifamily real estate, right? And then once you're in those rooms, you look around and you're you see the guy who looks like you or the gal that looks like you, and you're like, wow, that person looks like me, talks like me, acts like me. If they can do it, why can't I do it, right? It's this huge limiting, mind expansion thing that happens when you just get around people who are doing the things you want to do.
Yeah, but then we went to conferences. I think this was a big part of it. And the people who are hosting these conferences have taken down, thousands of doors, have millions of dollars or assets under management. And so when one of them told us post on social media to let people know that you're doing something new, that's what we did. And when other people said create content, whether that's a blog post or by video or whatever, that's what we did. We listened to the people who were at those conferences, because that's what it's doing, right? It's actually listening and then taking action. And I think taking action is the biggest part. And it is the most difficult, but none of us are perfect the first time, and majority of us are not perfect the 100th time. So we have to get over the thought that it needs to be 100% for everyone to see, because 99.9% of businesses in this world are never 100%. Failures happen, and that is also how businesses happen. And so we just have to keep that in mind. If Jeff Bezos and everyone are making failures, then we have to expect that we will as well.
Okay. So I told y'all that I would do a review of Follow Up Boss, because I'm your friend in real estate, and I did. Now, there's a blue million CRM out there. I mean, if you go to any Facebook group, every realtor's like, which one should I use? Which one should I use? And that these CRM, which are client relationship managers or customer relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, It's truly a system that's just designed to help you know what to do next, because you're very busy and you're a multitasker in real estate. And with all those different tasks and balls up in the air, you need something to help you stay on track. And that's what Follow Up Boss does. Now, when you save a name and a phone number in there, that is basically a Rolodex. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next. So you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors, because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. And if you'll use a tool like Follow Up Boss, where they remember you, they might even call you when they're ready to buy or sell again, or when their mom and daddy do, or their best friend or their kid, and you want to be top of mind. That's what a product like Follow Up Boss will do for you. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you use Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. So now there's a free trial for my people because you're loved. Go to followupboss.com/crazy. No credit card is required. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today. Okay, so what was that first social post? Was that I'm looking for a house to renovate? Was that we want to buy a fourplex? What was the actual social post that you threw out there after hearing somebody talk about it?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple key ones. So one was asking about, does anybody invest from overseas back in the US? So that was one that linked us up with somebody who we had our first chat with somebody who was a real estate investor. The second one was when we found our boots on the ground partner. I was just like posting about like how moving into multifamily, I'm in this mastermind or whatever. And one of my friends from the Air Force kind of reached out, and a classmate of mine reached out and he was like, hey, I just left the Air Force to go into real estate full time. I'm in Oklahoma City. Like, let's chat. And Oklahoma City and Tulsa were two of the markets we actually analyzed. And so that was how we found our first boots on the ground partner in those areas, since we needed somebody on the ground, since we're not obviously physically there.
So there you go, listeners. There's your action item right away. Is what they did was hear the idea and go do it, and then see what happened instead of trying to plan the outcome. So if you're thinking about being involved in these spaces, maybe you should just go make a post and figure out the outcome as it appears. So as it started to grow, what were the biggest challenges you were faced with being overseas and not being here? Was it a trust factor with your person on the ground? Was it not being able to see it and touch it, letting go of the control freak nature that entrepreneurs tend to have? How did you manage, and what were your challenges?
I think obviously a lot of challenges that you kind of highlighted, right? Not being there physically for the due diligence process and having to like trust our boots on the ground partners. Like, we actually had 3 of our partners go walk on our first assets, our first acquisition, like walk the property before we bought it, like go through the due diligence process. We couldn't be there because of COVID and like travel restrictions. But what we did was go and search and find all of the top syndicators. So all the top operators who are purchasing multifamily, like they have some freebies that they give out typically. And a lot of it has to do with due diligence, right? And so we went and we downloaded everything we could find. And then we kind of distilled that down into our own checklist. And we're like, okay, if we can't physically be there, this is exactly what we want our people to be looking at and taking pictures of, taking videos of, right? And so we made like this huge checklist, and we manage everything through a project management software tool as well. We can talk about that later if you want. But we manage everything through there, and then we have this checklist in there, and they can just upload everything, upload all the pictures, the videos, stuff like that. We have a very organized way of doing it, and then we can actually feels like we're almost present, right? Because we can like, okay, these are the serial numbers of the air conditioning units. Okay, this air conditioning unit is like 8 years old. We might have to plan for it going out in the next 7 years or something like that. Like, we can almost be there. But I will tell you, Leigh, like, it has helped us grow even faster because we're not there. And what I mean by that is like, it forced us to set up the systems and processes we need, because we cannot be there, because eventually our goal, right, is to be able to not ever want to be there and let it run itself, right? So like, I feel like somebody who might have been there, like if we were able to be there, we wouldn't be able to set up all these systems and processes, because we'd be doing it ourselves and not really thinking back on it and setting up the processes. So I think it's kind of, yes, it is difficult to lead from afar, from 4,000 miles away, but at the same time, it's really helped grow our business much faster.
So, of course, the premise of my podcast is the crazy shit in real estate. And I'm trying to lead you down that pathway because I'm guessing that for y'all, the crazy story might come from something that you did not know about, didn't expect, couldn't do anything about being far away, and then had to manage remotely or manage expectations or just the crazy story. So I'm dying to know, what's the crazy thing you've encountered that didn't fall on a checklist and you couldn't easily manage it from overseas, so you had to just deal with it? I'm dying to know. Suzy, you got to have the story for me here.
Gosh, so this one has more to do just with financials because no one could deal with it really. So the seller that we sold it from, he had bought it from, he had a 3-property portfolio. And so when we were doing like the digital due diligence of looking through the rent roll and everything, we were like, okay, well, we need to see your finances to make sure that you're getting what you say you're getting. And he was like, well, you can't, like, I can't show you bank account statements because 3 properties are going into one bank account. And all of us were like, okay, well, we're going to have to find a different way because that kind of makes sense. So what we had him do just through like what we found online was we were going to have him sign the rent roll, which means that he is signing it saying like, this is true for what it is. Well, we closed and it was not true from what it was for a variety of things, right? Like he filled it right before we went to close, which sure, he could have filled it. But even to add to this, like the property management company was in-house. So like he had control of all those numbers. And so when we took it over, it was like, oh, look we randomly have 3 skips, like literally within the hour that we took over. How coincidental? Or, oh, this person's balance is not 1 month's worth of rent. It is 6 months worth of rent. Like how coincidental. And that was the crazy part because nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about that. Like the numbers are changed to look better for lenders, to look better for selling, and to look better for all these things. We never knew that. Nobody's talking about the horrible things in spaces. Everybody's just like, hey, I got my first property. And I want to talk about like all the hard things. So no one even on the ground could deal with that, right? It was just like, okay, it is what it is. Like, this is what will happen. And so they're also all like stories that we were like, this is what would have had to happen. But then I met another buyer of that 3-property portfolio, and lo and behold, the same thing happened to him. And so now going forward, just for anyone, because like in Tulsa, like people will ask us about properties. Like when we're like, who is the seller? We just tell them about our experience. And that's how we just hope going forward that it doesn't continue
because it's really
happen.
Hard to
it's really hard to like
prove fraud.
Yeah. And it's really hard to like rebound.
We're gonna waste
from that.
money. Yeah, we're gonna waste money on a lawyer to so you just have to move forward.
Because like with that though, just to even let everyone know, right? Like some lenders are like, okay, well, we're going to give your money out in draws and we're only going to give you a certain amount of money if you hit this percentage for your rental income. But what they're seeing as rental income was what the seller provided us. And if that never actually happened, it's like, okay, well, now you just have to spend more time and get more creative to figure out how to make your rental income actually become that number. And so that's, I think, some crazy stuff that happens in real estate that nobody talks about.
I love that you're bringing that up because I deal with this on the multifamily in North Carolina all the time and have investors that get really frustrated because the property itself is in a good location. The rents can make sense, but you're inheriting it from probably a mom and pop investor. And what we're talking about here, they're hiding expenses from this building and this one because of whatever depreciation schedule they're on. And because they're using one account, you really can't break out what belongs to what. And that's just the nature of basically homemade bookkeeping. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to be fraudulent. I just don't think people pay good attention that they've got 3 properties they've owned for 20 years and whatever, we got some money coming in, whatever, we've paid off some notes, whatever, the equity's up, whatever. They don't know the age of the roof. They don't know the age of the HVAC. And that in-house property management is another way to shuffle money around. We had one, the investor lives overseas and he hadn't seen the property in 15 years. And his son was the property manager. Well, the son hadn't gone to the property in years because he didn't have to bother because they were sending in their rents. And my buyer was looking at this property. And of course, in North Carolina, you don't get access to it until you're under contract. Well, once we're under contract, we're like, oh, this is entirely different than what we were told. And the agent didn't have any way of knowing because she didn't have access. The son was embarrassed because he had no idea how bad it had gotten because they were just using it as basically an accounting hole. So when you're investing in this stuff, you have to know there's current rents, which are, take it with a grain of salt, which also why I always recommend that people get a property manager who's not the one on the property currently, so they can put a fresh set of eyes on the tenants and the leases and set expectations. And then you have to know what the rents should be based on the market, because the bank's going to lend you on current rents, not future rents, but future rents determine the value of the property and also what you can cash out on it. But you buy these things as a pig in a poke. And it is what it is. But I'm so glad you brought this up, because I feel like an idiot as an agent trying to explain to a buyer, we don't have the foggiest idea. Yes, we've asked them for financials. They don't have any. I know it sounds stupid, but they do not keep, I know they don't have keys or leases or nothing else. It's just a really good opportunity. So it's a risk reward ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always is.
I don't think you get over that. I think if you're not open to some of this risk, you probably don't get into this space. So what have y'all discovered as a way to bring people into this space that can manage that risk and take into account all of the unknowns that we just don't have any way of knowing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, so for one, it's talking about it, right? So like I said, when people come to us wanting to buy something to wholesale, we're like, hey, like you need to ask for these specific things. And if he doesn't give it to you, then it's just not going to be the property for you. It could be, but you have to know that this is what could lead to it. Something just might happen. And I think that's really just what it is talking about it to others and just hoping that when we guide people or talk about real estate, because we get that often too, like, oh, we'd like to talk to you about like things that you had to overcome. Like we try to bring that up, or we say like with digital due diligence, like you need a way to figure out financials. That's just what we say over and over and over. Like the financials are really like the heart of figuring it out, right? Like you can go to a property and easily like see something that's wrong, or sometimes you can't actually, right? There's that too. Right. But with digital, there's so many PDF editors. You just have to go out of your way to make sure that that is the best thing that you check. You have to know going in, it's always going to be partial information. I think that's what we always have to keep out there, that not everybody's a good record keeper. Not everybody's good with data. Not everybody's got a background in accounting who can do all of this stuff. They can learn from somebody with a background in accounting and data to figure out how to ask better questions, because at the core, it's back to what we talked about at the beginning. This is a great stream of revenue, and it's what a lot of people are drawn to because it's doable and there's ways to make it less risky, but you're always going to have risks. Just remember that, investor friends, there's no perfect scenario. And even the best record keeper is going to have a tenant who's lied through their teeth nonstop, which is why we love estoppel certificates, but they're only worth the paper they're signed on. And we'll talk about that in a future episode. But anyway, if somebody wants to talk to you guys and learn from you and get some of this mentoring guidance that you provide through what you've done as an overseas investor and what you're doing to help people move into syndication, how do they reach you and grab some of this relationship knowledge and learn with you?
Yeah, so the best way to do that, so we didn't get a chance to talk about too much, but like our big thing is like return on impact. We focus on a different ROI, and that's return on impact. And so what Suzy has done is she's gone through and she's put together a guide of like, it's called passive investing with purpose. And so basically you can passively invest, but also make an impact, whether that's in the residents' lives or the lives around you as well. And so to find your free copy of that and learn more about passive investing with impact, go to adventurousrei.com/impact. There you'll be able to find that. But if you want to connect with Suzy and I on a more general level through LinkedIn or find our podcast and YouTube channel, you can also go to adventurousrei.com/info. And that's just a landing page with all those links there.
And of course, all of these things are in the show notes for this episode, including that free download. So you should totally go check that out, because I know you guys have your interest whetted now to find out more about what that means. And I wish you would go connect with Michael and Suzy and find out how you can take those first steps beyond your limiting beliefs too. I really appreciate y'all coming on the show and giving us some tidbits to think about and some unspoken things to help people become better at this before you guys make a move back to the States.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks, Leigh. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. If you've enjoyed this and if you think you're going to download that, go give some nice comments down here and give a high five to Suzy and Michael remotely. Make sure you do download their goodies. Give us 5 stars and a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Okay, now don't forget to go try Follow Up Boss so that your business can continue to expand in professionalism, and then you can meet some more crazy people yourself. I really appreciate Follow Up Boss sponsoring this episode, but mainly I appreciate them for giving y'all double the free trial time with no credit card required. So make sure you go to followupboss.com/crazy and then let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.